let's go back to our new host. We'll see you very soon.
Well, good day, Australia. And let's start with the weather forecast. Contrary to everything that every Australian's ever told me about the weather in Sydney, it's raining. And in fact, it's been raining every minute since I got to Australia. And it's going to rain for every minute for the rest of the week that I'm spending in Australia. It's going to rain. But the good news for Ali is that she's finally got someone next to her who is intelligent, handsome, younger, better accent, and obviously has a proven track record of smashing ratings records on breakfast television.
And
you know what, Ali? I like it. This feels natural to me.
Does this feel like home?
Karl, well, it just feels like, Karl who? That's showbiz. He made the fatal strategic error of letting me sit in his chair. And look, it just immediately feels natural. You look happier.
I didn't even know what joy was for the last 2 years.
Suddenly you've been freed. It's like Nelson and Winnie Mandela walking on the long walk to freedom from the incarceration of Karl. The poor guy,
you were staying all morning.
He's trying to laugh, but he knows in his heart this has been a sucker punch from which there may be no recovery. No recovery. I've missed breakfast television.
I don't know. I think
it's great to be back. And you know what, Ali? It feels right, this chemistry, immediately. Bouncing off each other, feeling the collective
And you're just
energy.
like Karl, you don't let me get a word in.
I love you, Piers.
Do you want to explain what I'm even doing here?
No, I think we do that. It is so good to have you here,
It's lovely to be here. I've only ever spoken to you down a tube.
Down the line, OK.
Thousands of miles away, so it's lovely to be here.
And we're going to have a really big chat in just a moment.
Yeah.
Well, he is one of the biggest names in television, known for having an opinion on, well, just about anything and everything.
Yep, Piers Morgan is one of a kind and he's about to bring all of that and more down under to a new primetime show on Sky News.
We are so pleased to say the fearless international commentator, journalist and Sky News Australia host.
It's killing you having to read this. Come on, Karl. Come on.
Who wrote this rubbish? Piers Morgan, a big round of applause.
Thank you. I've got to say, by the way, I have never been into any studio in the world where there are so many pictures of me. This is absolutely fantastic.
You don't like it?
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's wrong with that?
We'll fix that up later. Hey, look, you come into our studio at a time, obviously, with a lot happening in Ukraine. What are your thoughts first up?
Well, my thoughts are this has been coming, and Vladimir Putin is a KGB gangster thug, and he wants to restore the Soviet Union to its, in his eyes, former glory, and he's now going to criminally invade countries until we stop him. He did it in Crimea, and there was no punishment that had any consequence for him. So he's stormed into the Ukraine. He's going to take Ukraine, I would imagine, quite quickly, because no one's got the military will or desire to try and stop him there. And we're talking about, punishing his rich mate so far seems to be the maximum punishment. How does that stop someone with Putin's megalomaniac ambition? He's a supreme narcissist. He's a dangerous guy. He's a killer. And what he's doing in Ukraine is an absolute disgrace. And the Ukrainian people deserve a lot more than they're getting right now from a tepid, timid world looking at this and going, isn't it awful? Let's punish some of his oligarch friends.
It's been pathetic.
I think they were expecting, I think the West promised they were going to do more, and then we've just abandoned Ukraine. Here now, I mean, who, though, in the West will stand up to him?
Well, it's got to be, I'm afraid, America. And the problem with that is I watched the press conference with Joe Biden. At one stage, he was like inappropriately smirking with the media. The whole tone of it seemed completely wrong to me. But, he's not stupid. He's a smart guy. And what he watched in Afghanistan last summer will have resonated strongly with him. He saw the Americans throw in the towel in Afghanistan, throw the Afghan people, particularly the poor women who had come out of oppression over the last 20 years, back to the Taliban walls and full-on oppression again. And he thought, this guy hasn't got the stomach for a fight. And so Putin's testing not just the world, but essentially testing America. Have you got the stomach for the fight? And the problem will be the Chinese will be watching this and they'll be thinking, if no one does anything about this, what's stopping us taking Taiwan? And then we're into a world war situation, which could be catastrophic. So the world has to come together against this. Putin has to lose. He has to lose badly. He has to be shamed and humiliated and kicked out of Ukraine with his tail between his legs. I just worry about who's got the will to do it.
But if you hit him with military might, do you then have nuclear weapons being brought into the picture potentially?
Well, hopefully cooler heads will prevail. Nobody wants that. But, what's going to stop if he takes Ukraine? What stops him going to other countries? He wants to restore the Soviet Union. He wants all those countries back under his power. This is the guy who's changed the rules of elections in Russia to mean that he can never be really unseated. He's now a dictator in the classic form. He wants to be an old-fashioned czar. He has this old-fashioned, in his eyes, romantic view of the Soviet Union being the great superpower of the world. And what we're seeing now is the manifestation of weak policies, an over-reliance on their energy, which gives him a financial hold over a lot of countries. The way that Germany's responded has been frankly pathetic because they feel financially paralysed because of their reliance on Russian energy.
The US doesn't have the stomach for it at the moment, and they're certainly not being led like that, right? So Donald Trump was out this morning saying it wouldn't have happened on his watch.
Well, he may have a point. He said some stupid things in the last week, Donald Trump, about Putin being a genius and so on. But one thing he was probably right about was that I think there was an unpredictability about Trump, which deterred people like Putin and North Korea from doing anything because they thought we're not quite sure how he might respond. There's no unpredictability about Joe Biden. He is an old guy who's showing his age. I think he's had a disastrous first year in office. And what he did in Afghanistan was rank cowardice. And he just handed that country back to the Taliban. And I think that Putin's watched that go down and thought, right, now is the time to flex my muscles, and I don't think America are going to respond.
I tell you what, it'd be a pretty terrifying thought, though, to think if Trump was still in power, you've got Putin and Trump both with their hand on the red button. Potentially, and how that would play out.
Although, to be fair to Trump, and it's difficult to be fair to Trump, and I've known him a long time, and he was, in many ways, he did some interesting things as president. In many ways, he did some awful things. But to be fair to him, I think on the foreign stage, he was not a warmonger. Trump didn't go to war anywhere, really, and I think that was to his credit. He always felt that wars were a senseless waste of money, looking at it from his business brain, and he's not wrong in many ways. But I think that what he's been saying about the response to Putin, would it have happened if Trump had been president? I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt Putin would have done this. And I think he's done it because he senses in Biden a weak leader at a weak time.
You have a new show that's coming up on Sky News, and obviously the United States will occupy plenty of that from the outside, but you can talk on behalf of inside and outside, and you know it pretty well. How do you see it shaping up in the next couple of weeks?
Well, look, it couldn't be a better time to be launching what I'm doing, which is a global show, which will be airing around the world, because I think that these things the world's become a small place. I think social media in particular has made the world a small place. We look at the same stories, we have the same debates, whether you're in Sydney, London or New York, you're all talking about the same kind of stuff. Everyone's talking about Ukraine today. Last week it was Prince Andrew and the royals and so on. So I think that if I can harness a kind of overview about the way the world is going with this show, but also underpinning it, I know you're going to love this personally, but a full-on assault on this woke cancelled culture nonsense.
Well, Ali is Miss Woke.
Well, exactly. Which has to be cancelled.
Not hard when I'm surrounded by you two. Far out.
No,
Someone's got to even it up a little bit.
The thing is, if you go back to the origin of woke, I wrote a book about all this. The original intention of being woke was that you would be alert and aware of social and racial injustice. I sign up to that. I've always fought against racial and social injustice. But that's not what woke is now representing. It now represents the right of a bunch of very angry, young, illiberal liberals, fascists in many ways, who want to tell us absolutely how we can lead our lives, what we can find funny, how we can dress, how we can speak, what TV shows we can like, what movies we can like, what statues we can revere, and so on. And I'm sorry...
And that should be the job of you two.
Well, you know what? It should be the right of all of us to have our own opinions, right? Including me and Karl.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now this could be a three-way here on this show.
Whoa,
no,
Piers.
Don't take it into the gutter, please, Karl. I'm talking about a three-way where you, Miss Woke, are surrounded by two men of reason and common sense.
How did I end up being woke?
Well, you know exactly how. I was talking to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and I was very surprised that you've come around on Meghan Markle. And it's unbelievable.
Well, she's the queen of woke, actually. You're off the hook. She, in many ways, represents this kind of mindset where she wants the right to... everything that she does is fantastic. Everything anybody else does to criticise it is appalling, and they must be immediately cancelled and shamed and vilified. And that's not how democracies work, I'm afraid. And it certainly isn't how they work when you're a rank hypocrite. The number of times they preach to us about the environment, those two clowns in their California mansion, from Elton John's private jet. It's like, really? Really? You're going to preach to me about carbon footprint from Elton John's private jet? No, you're not. And so my show, as you can see, I'm working myself into a nice morning lather. But the show is going to take on this hypocrisy, which is at the heart of all this stuff, which is the cancel culture has become something which I think destroys a society. If we let it go on, and we let these people win. Then in the end, as one Australian lady came up to me in the street in Kensington and London, she said, "Mr. Morgan," she said, "I'm an 80-year-old Australian woman, but don't hold either of those things against me." And she said, "I'm right behind you on this Markle debacle." And she said, "The trouble with these wokies, apart from the fact they're half asleep," she said, "the trouble with these wokies is they want to suck all the joy out of life. And I want you to bring the joy back to life." I went, "No?"
That's an unbelievable Australian accent.
Thank you. But it was a brilliant observation that actually at its heart, it's about sucking the joy out of life. It's about taking any of the fun and crushing it into a cesspool of funless, joyless, horrible, cancelled nothingness. And I see my role in life as to take this on and bring the joy back to life and the freedom back to the world.
Joie de vivre.
Exactly, the joie de vivre. Yeah. Exactly. Which is what we'll be having in our lunch next week.
Yeah.
And you're paying, by the way.
Yeah, no, just keep that
your manner, your bill.
Careful. He always promises, and the next thing he's got to leave right before the bill arrives.
Mate, we're having a big one.
Yeah, no,
he's already been giving it. I'm going to. Let's see how you get on.
Okay, yeah.
With a proper Brit drink it.
Are you worried about the Queen?
I am worried about the Queen. I've been worried about her ever since Philip died. She's 95 years old, nearly 96. You know, her mum lived to 101, but didn't have any of the pressures that the Queen's had. I think losing her rock of a husband after 70 years was unbelievably tough. You know, he was like the most brilliant consort imaginable. I think that the antics of Meghan and Harry have been a constant irritation that's been damaging because all the smearing about racism in the palace and so on has really been damaging in the Commonwealth, I think, and that's hurt the Queen's reputation, the monarchy's reputation. I think the Andrew scandal has been monumentally damaging. I think the fact he's, you know, for the Queen's son to have to pay someone millions of dollars to silence them in a sex abuse case, I think is completely shameful and has heaped more problems on the Queen. And then she gets COVID. You know, and anyone who knows anyone of that age who gets COVID, it's a worrying time. But she's such a trooper. Even with COVID, up she was doing her weekly call with the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. Which, frankly, a weekly call with Boris would be enough to finish anybody else. And I think she's a remarkable woman, and I'm very pleased that Australia so far has shown no sign of actually wanting to proceed with a Republican state here, because I do think that you underestimate the calming factor of a monarchy and a monarch like the Queen for 70 years. I mean, think about that. She's been on the throne 70 years. It's even longer than you've been alive, Karl.
Yes, only just. Only just.
And I'm a huge fan of her. And I think the issue will be when, sadly, she does die, I think the issue is going to be what happens then. You know, Charles and Camilla won't be as popular. I happen to like them myself, but they're not as popular as the Queen. You do have the rock stars of William and Kate to come. And I think the future's bright if they can stop all the scandals and if they can basically lock Meghan and Harry in their dungeon in Montecito and make sure that they keep their pronouncements down to at least 1 an hour. That would be a nice relief for all of us.
As we all know, that's not going to happen.
No.
No chance of that. Isn't there, like, there's another book coming out?
I've had terrier dogs that yap less than most.
I know.
It's just the constant yapping every day. When it's quiet, there's one thing you can guarantee: up one of them will pop, yapping.
We've got a thing here for you. Ali thought this would be fun.
I want you to eat your words.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
What?
Why would you be so aggressive? He's come in, he's giving us some of his...
How was that aggressive?
I thought it was...
I'll give you aggressive.
So we have here... we know that you said Marmite wipes the floor of Vegemite.
Yeah.
So
I've actually had a slight revision about this.
Yeah.
Because the hotel I'm in, they brought me a little snack last night.
Did
and
they?
it was 6 chocolates, right? Fudge chocolates. So fudge with chocolate on, but also Vegemite on top.
What?
And I saw this, I thought, this sounds absolutely revolting.
Yeah.
Why would you ruin chocolate with Vegemite?
Yeah.
Anyway, I ate them, all of them. And I've got to say, they were absolutely delicious. The cocktail of Vegemite and chocolate and fudge was unbelievable.
You are a
So, have you got Marmite and Vegemite here, or is this just Vegemite?
I don't know. It's hard to tell them apart.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that smells like Marmite.
Yeah. It's hard to tell them apart, to
be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what it is? It's a bit like Australian and British people.
Yeah.
It's just one is slightly more sophisticated on the palate.
Yeah, right.
And I don't want to upset anybody by saying which one it is, but you know what I mean. It's like Vegemite, yeah.
The ashes were good for you.
Oh, shut up. Seriously.
It was bad.
You know, the last time, it was funny, someone said to me, how's it going in Sydney? I went, well, the weather's great. And then I said, but actually, what the good news is I haven't had my ribs broken by Brett Lee yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was, as my sister described it last time I was here, it was the nearest thing to a public stoning she'd ever witnessed. Oh, here we are. Oh, God, this is going to give me PTSD.
Yeah,
he was trying to kill me.
No, it's fast.
If you remember, so the third one broke my rib. So I was wearing this massive guard over my, all over my front. But yeah, so that one broke the rib, and then the fourth one hit the broken rib. And we both had these headpieces. And Brett Lee ran down and he went, "Oh, mate, did you hear that one crack?" And I was like, "You are a psychopath, an absolute psychopath."
Well, you love it here. We love you here. Piers Morgan's new primetime show will air on Sky News Australia in the coming months, and we're all looking forward to that. You'll be able to tune in on Foxtel or stream it on Flash.
Thank you for having me.
So
it's been a real pleasure to finally be in your lair. And you have my deepest sympathies, obviously.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
At this constantly difficult time.
I'll see you at lunch.
I can't wait.